Environment Minister Peter Kent compared some environmental charities to money laundering operations earlier this week. It's not the only criticism aimed in that direction. Pro-oil sands website ethicaloil.org recently filed a complaint with the CRA against the David Suzuki Foundation. In the 44-page document, the site takes aim at the foundation's level of political activity. I talked to the CEO of the Suzuki Foundation, Peter Robinson, earlier, and started by asking him what Ethical Oil is suggesting they're doing.
Well, Unethical Oil, as they call them, has submitted a 50-page submission to the CRA in which they have culled through some of our records and looked at our web pages and presented this to the CRA and asked them to review this on the basis that this somehow, in their mind, exceeds some of the eligible activities that charities can do, and then makes the demand that if they find that we have exceeded them, that they perhaps look at censoring and maybe removing the charitable status of the organization. And
what did you find when you reviewed your own activities? Did you get up against any thresholds of activity that the CRA deems you're able to do when it comes to political activities?
No, not at all. And in fact, I reviewed this lengthy document and I recognized some of the things that we had done over the past year or so. And I actually remember looking at this and thinking, well, I'm pretty proud of what we've done. I think the point for anybody to figure out here is that this is well within the guidelines of the CRA, which require no more than 10% of your resources go to political activity or advocacy. And the amount that we dedicate to this is somewhere around 1%.
So let's define what a political activity is. What do we mean by that? Is it speaking on behalf of candidates? Is it sending out literature that is pro one party or another? What are we talking about?
No, that would be partisan, which is not permitted under CRA regulations. The kind of work that they had zeroed in on was requests for our supporters to write letters or to look at certain policies or directives and letters that we had sent to certain ministers on issues of policy work. And the thing to remember is that looks like a lot of effort. Certainly if you receive a lot of emails or notes, you might think, oh my gosh, that seems like a lot of activity. But when you do the direct costing of writing those and posting them, they're very low cost, what I would call high impact. They're nowhere near the threshold that is permitted.
This is an issue that may have been followed through on by Ethical Oil, which is a lobby group for the oil industry, but was really started by the feds. I mean, it was the energy minister musing about foreign funding of environmental groups, then used for political purposes in our country, that I think kind of got this whole notion going. Can you go back to that moment, and did you see that as sort of an uh-oh moment that something was about to come at you?
Good question. Actually, we saw this coming quite some time ago. There was hints that the government was looking at the activities of only a very small section of the charities, 85,000 in this country, and looking at, well, is this particular sector, is it getting in the way perhaps of some of our initiatives? I don't think it's any secret, if you look back now and then cast forward to where we are, that it's all part and parcel of trying to really stifle the voices of those who would seek to put other input into views different maybe from what the government is saying.
Have you taken that point of view to anybody in government, that the approach is maybe anti-democratic, that it is just sort of killing a discussion or commentary around issues?
Well, I certainly presented it to the Standing Committee on Finance in February and said, you know, really, at the end of the day, you want strong nonprofit charitable organizations because they all serve in areas like education and social services and religious activities, community activities, and they are all really trying to do good for the community, including environmental groups. We're all trying to define what would be a really strong, vibrant, healthy country. So I look at this, and when I get worried, it's not just for the environmental community. Anything that the government now does with restrictions on charities will apply to all 85,000.
So where does that leave you in terms of how you govern yourself? Will you change anything about the way the foundation operates or the campaigns you pursue?
We'll certainly be much more observant. There is a clause, and of course it's all buried in the Budget Implementation Act, which is a very odd place to put restrictions on charitable organizations. But we're going to certainly watch what happens. We want to make sure that the clauses about temporary suspension of charities doesn't apply to our organization. We'll pay attention. But the interesting thing about this is when we started to get this conversation back in terms of, we're going to be looking at charities, and we went back and calculated really carefully our true political activity, and we saw that it was really around 1 or 2%. Maybe the unintended consequence is that we recognize rather than, oh my gosh, we're going to have to limit that, we can actually go another 9%.
Now, it's been reported that Dr. Suzuki felt he had to step down from the foundation not to kind of distract. How meaningful is that for you? Is that a blow to the work you're doing?
No, David, and I love working with David, but David is this iconic individual that Canadians repeatedly trust on the issues that he speaks on. And of course, if David goes out and sneezes, somebody's going to say he was being political. So his gesture was to say, I don't want to draw undue attention to the foundation that I helped create, and so I'm going to step off of the governance capacity, because that's what triggers some of these reviews. Is he acting in a capacity formally attached to the foundation?
Yeah.
What I like is that he'll continue to be one of our strongest volunteers, and I'm sure you'll see David around for quite a while.
All right, we got to leave it there. We do appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Amanda.
Peter Robinson, CEO of the David